good friends over time, seeking retribution. We got winning on our mind. We've got to cross the line.
West Tigers Faithful, episode 12. We've now got as many episodes as the West Tigers did players on the field for the majority of the season. I'm Jared Reedy, and you blokes can't see it, but with me is Joe McCord. And can you please tell everybody why there is a fedora on your head?
It's a party hat to celebrate the disillusion of the relationship that we have with Bryden's lawyers.
I am so thankful he is gone. I don't care who we have as a sponsor, all right? It could be some Aldi brand of passata as far as I'm concerned. You know, it could be with the way Elon Musk is going. I don't mind if it's Tesla, just as long as it's not Bryden's lawyers. Mr. McCord, what would be your ideal pick for the major sponsor of West Tigers, do you think?
So there's a company by the name of Pinch Payments that I think would make an excellent sponsor for the West Tigers.
They also make a great sponsor of the West Tigers Faithful podcast, do they not?
Yes, and it all comes down to their incredible functionality that allows small businesses to get their invoices paid on time by simply sending a form when they sign up. Your customers put the payment details in, you send invoices from zero, they get paid on the due date. How magic is that?
Sensational. It is a Friday, and thank God, but it is actually at the time of recording Friday, November 1. And as everybody knows, we finally farewelled Lee Hagipantelis and Bryden's lawyers. But there was also a wedding today, a very harmonious one between West Tigers and Jarome Luai. Mac, have you seen this little video that he's put together already? Just saying that he's ready to rip to try and drive membership numbers.
Well, ironically, I watched it about 3 minutes ago, and honestly, I got the impression that he's been, getting into the healing crystals or something. Like he's giving off crystal mum energy. He wants to feel our energy, really.
Yeah, I don't think he'd want to feel my energy or smell it. Tell you what, though, it is exciting nonetheless. And obviously, I think it's going to hit like crack when we see him in that jersey, is it not?
Yes, I very much look forward to the first training pictures and the first game that he plays for us.
Indeed. It's a new dawn, a new day, and a new life, and I'm certainly feeling good. The top 30, for the most part, has been confirmed. We got a departures list last night. It was basically everybody that we anticipated, no surprises. But this morning, in an article titled Welcome to the Jungle, very fittingly, they confirmed who would be in the top 30 and who would not. There are 29 out of 30 contracted players at West Tigers, so we have a spot free. The reason being is that Jordan Miller's arbitration case is still ongoing. And furthermore, a young middle forward by the name of Chris Fangutu has had his top deal paid out. I really haven't spoken to you today. Do you sort of have a reaction for me about any of that?
Yeah, that sucks a little bit for him, I suppose. I think he's pretty good.
I think so too.
I suspect he'll end up in the NRL somewhere. But not at the West Tigers. Wish him luck. I did see a fairly hot take on social media in reply to the West Tigers post that said something to the effect of, I can't believe we've let him go. Why didn't we let go of some of those plotters like Sucker? And I was like thinking to myself, I was like, I don't think I agree with that because I mean, I'm on the record saying that like he's not the best player, but he's clearly further along in his development and closer to first grade than Chris was. So I think it's a rancid take. So if you're out there listening, person who said that, get a clue.
I think that was Balmain Boy.
Yeah, get a clue, mate.
Look, I'm disappointed to lose him, but similar to yourself, was he at that top 30 level? Probably not.
No.
I think a couple of these development contract graduates aren't at that point either. So as a result, somebody had to go. And look, I think Chris, I'd like to see him at Redcliffe. I think that makes a lot of sense. With a few older forwards and a need for that sort of, high leg speed, high impact front rower. I think he's got a future somewhere, but as you say, it won't be at West Tigers.
That's a pretty good take, actually. I actually think that he strikes me as a Gold Coast player. He's
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one too.
yeah, they have a habit of bringing through these like types of players. I just feel like he'll end up there somehow.
Yeah, look, I think wherever he goes, I think he will eventually debut in the NRL. The question is how many games he plays. But look, there is a player there. I was going to try and segue a little bit better, but now I've
Sorry.
failed miserably. That's totally fine. It's not your
My bad.
fault. I've forgotten what I was going to say. But somebody who might become a West Tiger is Terrell May. This news broke late yesterday afternoon that the Roosters were more than happy to see the back of him. Now, with a team that has the likes of Michael Jennings and so forth within it, I'm not too sure that this is an off-field issue. This screams the Roosters clearing the decks ruthlessly to try and get somebody in. Cough, cough, Ben Hunt, cough, cough, Dylan Brown. In saying that, a $475,000 Terrell May is now on the market with many suitors, and Michael Carianis confirmed this morning that the West Tigers have inquired. How do you feel about this?
I would love that so very much. Like we've been hoping and praying for an impact middle to fall into our laps, and lo and behold, he was one of the best props in the game this just season gone. And if he can end up at the West Tigers, that's going to make us a much better team.
97.8% tackle efficiency, and
Oh,
had the highest average carry per run of any middle forward at the Roosters. In fact, of any forward, I'm fairly sure, bar Angus Crichton, and you can understand that.
oh,
Similar to yourself, he's just tireless. He just doesn't have a motor. He doesn't get tired. It's just ridiculous. Obviously, I think for a lot of those playing along at home, you'll remember that Terrell was playing for the Magpies a few years back. But I feel like the journey he's had, he sort of needed to become the player that he is. So he's not. I can't believe that they let him go type. I think he has this amazing ball playing ability. He's great in and out of contact. As mentioned, he doesn't miss tackles. And the biggest thing is that he doesn't come, like, he'll come reasonably cheap around that. I think he'll get an upgrade at around 550,000. And he's 25 years old.
yes, only 25.
Like,
He's got his best years ahead of him.
absolutely insane. I am very, very biased, but I am very thankful that Jarome Luai is over with him in Samoa camp and can probably get in his ear. That would be amazing. I'm trying to think. Obviously, the Bulldogs have a bit of money and a need for a middle forward, and I think Parramatta might come to the table. Do you, looking at all this, do you think that he will be a West Tiger, or do you think that obviously Canterbury were talking to him last time? Do you think that's where he winds up? What are you seeing?
I would have to say on the like facts presented that we would be the most likely destination. I think, we've just lost Stefano, who we had a lot of cap assigned to, so we've obviously got the space there for him. Obviously Parramatta with releasing RCG, they'd be in the frame, they'd be going after him hard. But I think when you compare the short-term prospects of the Tigers versus Para, I might be biased, but I think that we look like the better short-term bet than Para. Like I would say, I don't know. Have you seen the odds? Are we shorter priced to get to the 8 than Para? I would just have to guess so.
Oh, I'm not sure. They've obviously got Mitchell Moses, who I know we obviously have Jarome Luai, but
I'm gonna look at the odds, mate. Here we go. 2020.
you go and have a look at the odds, and I'll talk. Look, I think that he is ready made to be our starting front rower. I obviously you talk impact. I think he's ready to start for us. I think he's a guy that we could build our forward pack around, providing he'd be willing to come here. I think the Samoan connection, and I think that the culture that Marshall is trying to create is something that he would appreciate. It's just obviously, getting that deal done and ensuring that we have a roster spot. I think that would solve a lot of the issues that West Tigers have currently going into free agency. Xavier Willison's already re-signed with Brisbane. Leo Thompson, I reckon we'd be about 1,000,000 to 1 for him to come to us. There's and after that, I think the standard in quality drops off. There's a couple of guys that are a little bit older. There's a few journeymen around. There's a couple of prospects that you look at and go, you might come good, but I'm not too sure. Guys like Viramu Grieg and who's the other fella, Davey Moali. So if we were able to get our hands on Terrell, and I think Richo's going to push pretty hard, that would be sensational. Have you got those odds?
Yeah, Richo gets his man too when he really wants to, and he's got the space to do so. And we know that he, will value a player like Terrell May at the salary that he is on. Yeah, Parramatta are slightly shorter in the market than us, but pretty close. We're actually fifth last, which is interesting. They're rating us a better chance than Newcastle, the Gold Coast, Canberra, and the Saints.
It's amazing what a man by the name of Jarome Luai does. Look, we'll wait and see, but I'm hopeful that he lands on our doorstep in the next few weeks. Another person that I'm hopeful lands on our doorstep, but you're not particularly fussed about him, is Kobe Hetherington. Now, I thought that this deal was dead in the water around PM's 13, where he came out and basically said all he knows is being a Bronco, wants to sit there and dig in and whatnot. I opened the paper yesterday and it turns out that his manager is going to meet with Madge next week to find out where they stand. And we were also told by a good friend of ours, shout out PJ, that with Willison re-signing, that there isn't much room left for Hetherington, both cap-wise and in terms of playing minutes. And he may well become a West Tiger in these next few weeks. Look, I think he's the kind of high leg speed, strong contact lock forward that we need. He's a former hooker, so he can pass off both hips pretty well. And he's a proven first grader, and we need some of those to round out our pack. Mate, if we could pull both May and Hetherington, I think our pack or the outlook of it changes pretty decently. And suddenly you've got a bit more depth and competition for spots. I know you don't necessarily feel that highly about Hetherington, but let's say hypothetically that he were to come to the club next week. What are you thinking?
I'd be pretty happy with it. I don't, like I said, I think I said when we spoke about him, I would be worried if we were all hanging our fedora on him walking 13 and being really elevating the side. But a guy like that in the mix is better than a guy like Chris Gutu being in the mix, or a guy like Tony Suka being in the mix. So I agree. I would be excited. I'd be particularly excited if we got them both. I think that would transform our forward pack enormously. Suddenly you'll have good forwards playing in reserve grade if we get both of them. Obviously, I think that if we do sign them both, we will have some issues because we got 29 signed already. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to lose any of them. Really, maybe Richo's still trying, but it's not looking promising if it's got to November 1. And then we've got Sione Finu, who still hasn't got a contract, and Tim Johansson, who is lurking in the shadows. So if we get Hetherington and May, I'd say it's pretty likely that we won't have space for Sione.
Not particularly. Obviously, I think that negotiations between John Bateman, West Tigers, and the Manly Sea Eagles are currently ongoing.
Yeah, that's one.
So the Adam Dewey links. Not only is there stuff going on with St George, I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Maguire has a look at him in the wake of the Ezra Mam stuff.
Oh yeah,
cheap 5'8" that can do it.
He does Maguire does like him, doesn't he? Yeah,
he does. And look, there are a shortage of not necessarily NRL proven halves, but talented halves, and with that, I don't think that Bud Sullivan, will be without a club for too long. So there's a couple there. I don't expect guys like Naden or Clemmer or Matamua to leave. I think we've got them for another 12 months. A saleable asset might be a guy like Josh Folletti, but it just comes down to the club and what they think in terms of moving players on or whatever it may be. Obviously, Brendan Tumeth has clearly taken up his player option. I don't know how much that's worth. Given that Sheens and McDonald did the deal, he's probably on about 950,000. No, I kid. But look, anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think that should we, best case scenario, sign both Terrell and Kobe, that the Tigers would do a bit of creative accounting and ensure that they could fit them in. And with that, I think that we would be genuine chances, injury-free and touch wood, to make the top 8.
Make the grand final and win it, you mean? Yeah.
Oh, yes. That was exactly what I meant. Okay, this episode is about the spine. So we've done the forwards and the backs these last few weeks. We're going to do it in a bit of a different order this time. It's basically just going to be around games played, but the guy that we want to talk about last, I'm sure you can all ascertain who that's going to be. We're going to save him till then. So it's pretty much just a smorgasbord. There were 8 players that played in the spine this year for the Tigers. One of which is leaving, one of which is apparently leaving, and we've got a few rookies and a few, I'm not going to say seasoned vets, but some guys that went around again. So first things first, Aiden Caesar, who is bound for Hull Football Club. 17 games this year in the NRL for Aiden. No tries, but 9 try assists. He averaged 3 runs a game and had 46 possessions on average each game. No line breaks, not a surprise. 8 line break assists in those 7 games. He was kicking the ball about 8 times a game. Average kick meters of 263. Obviously, the short kicks, long kicks, medium kicks, bombs, kick meters isn't a great metric, but just to give you an idea. He forced 5 dropouts in 17 games. And on the other side of the ball, he had a tackle efficiency percentage of 81%. He let in 11 tries that he was responsible for, and he had 16 line break causes. Aiden had 9 errors in those 17 games and conceded 15 penalties. The majority of those, I reckon, would have been for hip drops. Speaking of, I reckon it would have been hilarious to go back and look at old tape of him at Canberra and the Gold Coast and the Dogs and to see how many hip drops he got away with, because, my God, this bloke cannot keep his legs. What we wanted from Aiden was an old hand to steer the ship and to look after the boys. I don't think it's a surprise that the majority of the games we won, he was playing halfback. I thought he started off the season really, really well, but as time went on and the losses started to stack up, it was pretty clear that, a 1-year deal was probably the right play by the club. I don't think I'll necessarily miss Aiden. There'll be some games where I'll look back fondly on his performances, but ultimately he was always going to be a stopgap for the man that we spoke about at the top of the show. And with that, I wish him well. Yourself?
Oh, look, I mean, I actually kind of like him. I think he seems like a good chap. He was pretty good for the young lads, I think. I felt like, there was a lot of talk around him being, the main senior player who was actually really getting in their ear and motivating them. So, a part of me kind of would prefer he be on the roster right now and not Sullivan. But in saying that, as you point out, the 1-year deal meant that he was the easy one to see off to free up that much needed spot. So back to England, and I expect he'll do well there.
I think he will. Shout out to the Turkish Sparky. I hope he goes well. All the best. The bloke that you don't want on the roster, but he's unfortunately still there, Jaden Bud Sullivan. He played 8 games this year. He had 1 try and 8 try assists in those 8 games. That's actually quite impressive from young Bud. Averaging 5 runs a game. He was averaging about 45 possessions per match. No line breaks in those 8 games, but 5 line break assists. He had about 7 kicks a match, so 1 less than Aiden on average. Average kick meters of 238, and he forced 2 dropouts in his 8 games, so one every 4. Tackle efficiency percentage of 83%. He let in 6 tries during those 8 games and 10 line breaks. He had 7 errors in those 8 games and 4 penalties. He looked really lethargic in the early part of the season. In the trials, it didn't look like he wanted to be there. The Canberra game similar. He was sort of up and down and in and out of first grade and between reserve grade. And then finally, when he was put in the 7 through that midway part of the season, it actually looked like he was finally starting to get it. And then he was put in the bin and he was never seen again.
Yeah.
Look, I've thought this with Bud for a very long time. I think that he is a starlet in terms of his talent. I think that Anthony Griffin and the pandemic ruined him. And it's really disappointing. And the Tigers thought that they could pick up the pieces, but unfortunately with Bud, it's going to be the long game, and he's going to need a club and a good system that's going to put the time and the reps into him and instill the confidence that he needs. I think there's still an NRL level player there. I'm not saying a representative half or anything like that, but what we saw through the regular season, not the finals with Braden Trindle, is what I think his ceiling is. And I think that he can get there. He just needs the coaching and the mentoring that he deserves. Look, with us, it just didn't work, and I feel for him. But ultimately, when you've got guys like Lachlan Galvin and Jarome Luai and Latu Fino at the club, then you're on a hiding to nothing. So with that in mind, I do hope he finds a club, not because I want to see the back of him, but because I think he deserves to play first grade elsewhere. And with that in mind, we'll see what the next few weeks brings. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that what we were seeing early in the season was Sullivan forced into a role that doesn't suit him. Like he was trying to play the game manager role, and Sullivan's a running eyes up player. He has good hands, in certain contexts, like he's good close to the line at like finding the right pass to put the player through the gap and score the try. He's got, he's pretty good on his feet. His kicking game leaves plenty to be desired, which for mine pretty much precludes him from being a 7 anytime soon, or like playing that primary game manager role. But yeah, I agree. There was at least one game in the middle of the season where I was like, here we go. You can see what you can get out of him. I wonder, they played him as a backup dummy half at the Saints quite a lot. Maybe we'll start seeing him in that role a little bit throughout the season, that, as players come in and out of the side through form and injury, and touchwood, hopefully not suspension. We could get a bit of value out of him from that perspective. Other than that, having him next to Finu in reserve grade's pretty good halves combo for reserve grade. So, yeah, look, I'm not too fussed. The only thing that really bugs me about him is the fact that he's on so much money.
Yeah, and the length of the deal. That's a massive issue.
It
Look,
was
I don't
5 years,
think.
wasn't it?
Say again.
He was signed for 5 years, wasn't he?
4.
4, was it? Okay.
Yep. So there's 3 years of his deal left to run, and he's on about $500,000. So
he says all the right things. He seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He looks to me like a bloke who, if he could get some momentum and have some wins and be part of a winning culture, like you might see like a transformation in his mentality that might help him. He seemed to play within himself a lot. And I feel like that, he needs to really like let the leash off a little bit more.
I think so too.
Need to unleash him Luke Brooks style.
How many times did we hear that? Yeah. Look, again, I don't think we'll see him in first grade again. They sort of trialed him in that 14 role, but they just had Appy playing 80, or he didn't get on the field at all. So, look, wait and see, and I'm sure he'll report for day one of preseason and rip in. As you said, I think he's got a reasonable attitude, but yeah, I think that's where it stops. So, best of luck, bud. Next guy on this list is Heath Mason. 7 games, 1 try and 1 try assist in those games. He averaged 7 runs per match. Quite interestingly, he was for 69 meters, so just under, look, pretty much is 10 meters per carry. He had 14 possessions a match, so not heaps. He had 2 line breaks and 1 line break assist in those 7 games. 1 forced dropout. I remember that was in the South game. 77% tackle efficiency. That doesn't really surprise me. 6 try causes, 5 line break causes, 3 errors in those 7 games, and 2 penalties. Look, straight away, I think he was blooded too early. I think he's still learning how to be a fullback the same way that Luke Lauli is learning to be a winger. But there is just so much to like when the ball is on the ground. Let me say that. Now, when the ball's in the air, he's got a bit to work on, and I think he needs to fix his tackling technique when coming up against bulky wingers. ALA Micah Sevo. But in saying that, look, so much to work with and so much to look forward to. And I think that once Uppy retires, I think that Heath is that guy to be that long-term 14, although I think you might have higher aspirations for him.
Yeah, I think that like the ceiling is pretty high with Heath Mason. So like I don't know if I go as far as to say I expect him to be a, you know, rep or close to rep level NRL fullback, but I think he has it in him for sure. Like I think he has that work ethic. He's got skills that you really can't teach. He's got a good shape. He's got he can kick, he can pass and he can run. Like that's a pretty talented young fella. With a good head on his shoulders too, and one of the boys, which obviously will matter a lot as they progress because they've already got that preternatural combination built into them. Yeah, I think that he's very unlikely to see much first grade in 2025, unless obviously, he has a Lachlan Galvin style off season and just absolutely just demands, attention. Is it possible that he plays Jarome Luai into the centers? I mean, it would be nice, like if he, really like progressed that well. But I don't think so. Not yet, anyway. But yeah, I rate him. I think he's got a lot of quality, and hopefully he's around for a fairly long time.
Most importantly, he's a Thomia boy.
Oh yeah, that's your club, isn't
It is. It
it?
is. Lockie was telling a story when he was playing for Camden for a year and he came out to Group 6 that Heath's team was the team that beat him. And I actually, he was friends with my younger brother, Heath. He was a year younger, but used to back up for him and he was a freak. And I was refereeing for a bit of quid on the side on a Saturday morning. And even at 6 or 7 years old, you knew he was going to be special. So it's pretty cool to see him ripping it up on an NRL field now. But yeah, similar to yourself, I just want to see him have a strong year in reserve grade, kind of similar to what Chevy Stewart did this year at Canberra.
Mm.
Just fix your deficiencies and continue to get used to the contact of playing man and everything like that. And like I said, once Arpy retires, I think he's that perfect guy to stick around in the middle, and he's just those around tired legs, and to be that guy that can fill a multitude of positions. So off contract, I believe at the end of 25. I think he's a guy that will be ready for a top 30 deal.
Yeah.
By that time. Talon Silva. I'm pretty excited to talk about this fella. 6 games, 1 try, 1 try assist. He averaged 2 runs in that time, in about a half-hour stint for 27 meters, so about 13.5 meters per carry. He had 2 line breaks and 1 line break assist in those 6 games. Tackle efficiency percentage of 90, so still a little bit to do, but that's okay. 1 try cause in those 6 games, which is excellent. 2 line break causes, which is that can be worked on. 2 errors and 1 penalty. He's always been classy. I think out of all those boys that came through that Matt side in 2022, he was always my favorite. I just don't see a flaw in his attacking game. He can pass beautifully off the deck. He can kick. He's fast. His support play is exceptional. He's strong. He's a competitor. He fucking hates losing. Like, he's just everything that you want. And he can kick goals at a high click too. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, he is just so good. I think that this year proved, and it was a really, really good back end of the year for him in New South Wales Cup. It took him a little while to find his feet after the SG ball season, but once he found his feet, he was excellent. I think that he's ready for a bigger role, and I think that with the way that Uppy is aging, that he will demand a bigger role, and there'll be no choice. I think that he's ready to play 30 minutes week to week in first grade. I wanted him to sort of do 70, 80 minutes in reserve grade, this year, but I feel like now moving forward that he is ready and that he's going to demand solid minutes in first grade, and I cannot wait, because I think that I'm going to say that within 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, he'll be playing for New South Wales. That's how highly I rate him. What do you reckon?
Yeah, he's all that in a bag of potato chips, that's for sure. It's not very often you see a dummy half play at the standard that he played in New South Wales Cup at their age. He wasn't. It's not like he was the best dummy half in the New South Wales Cup, but like when he was like his highlight reel was probably the best highlight reel for a dummy half in New South Wales Cup. Like he can do things most other nines can't do. He's faster than most nines, faster than almost all of them, probably, except for maybe Cook. But I don't know. It'd be an interesting race. He's, there's not many nines that can, actually like make a line break and like outrun everyone. And he can do that. Obviously, he's got really good vision and like picks when to run really, really, really well. As you alluded to, his distribution off the ground is phenomenal and always has been for such a young guy to have that. Like and he's learning from one of the craftiest dummy halves that he could possibly hope to learn from. So the sky is the limit for Talon. I think that it's interestingly plausible that there may come a time where he shows himself on the first grade scene so well that he might actually supplant Appy. I feel like it's possible. Not necessarily this next coming season, but there's, it has happened before that, young dummy half comes in and like just the old stager that was, the man around the traps got moved around to accommodate because he was just undeniable. That's, the story of Farah. So it's yeah, I'm very, very bullish on him too.
I think that by 2026, yeah, you'll see Appy take the first 2025 and take the sting out of the match. And then, yeah, Talon will come on and he'll play the majority of the minutes. I'll be very surprised if that doesn't happen. But next year, I think, yeah, it's around that 30-minute mark. And hopefully Uppy can be back playing representative football like he deserves to be. And he's injury free. And with that, we can see a little bit more of Talon in first grade.
I think that there's a chance, a small chance, but a chance that we might see the side figure out ways to have them both on the field at the same time. I think that that's something like if they're both in our best 13, then you kind of have to. Appy, as he gets older, he's a tough nugget. When to use your words, the sting is out of the game, you could, spend 20 minutes with Appy and 13 roll out on the field and Talon comes in at dummy half and have both of them just causing havoc. The old Farah Hallertau 1-2 punch style thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that was happening a little bit more in reserve grade where Talon would sort of share the spoils with a Bailey Hodges or a James Valavatu. Or a Kane Nicholas. That was happening. And I think I saw it a handful of times in first grade. It was quite rare, but it's clear that I think that that's the role that they're grooming him for. So, if he can get 30 minutes at hooker and then another 15, 20 at 13 next year for the Tigers and, whoever he's relieving at 13, whether it be Sione Jackbird or Touchwood, Kobe Hetherington, that'd be nice. But look, I think he's ready for a higher role in first grade, and I'm looking forward to seeing him evolve.
Before you move on, sorry, Jared, one more thing I think maybe gets maybe doesn't get spoken about enough with Talon is that the kid can flatten people. Like I've seen him whack people like in reserve grade. Like he's a little bit like flimsy sometimes, like when he's like, gets himself one-on-one with a rampaging prop off the back fence, he gets pushed backwards. Of course, he's young and he's not huge body, but he has great technique. And as he gets older and stronger, I could really see him becoming like a Brandon Smith type.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes with his conditioning because he's pretty cut now. But yeah, if you could get a bit more muscle on his frame, then yeah, he might resemble the old rolling block of cheese. Yeah. Wait and see.
It's a similar style.
Yeah, I think so, but just a little classier.
More skilled, yeah. Classier, more skilled, yeah.
And can pass both sides. Brandon cannot. Latu Fainu, 9 games. A lot of those were from the bench. In fact, nearly all of them were from the bench except Spoon Bowl. 2 tries, 2 try assists. He was averaging 2 runs a game for about 23 meters, So 11.5 meters per carry. So nice work, Latu. Averaging about 20 possessions a game, but again, that's skewed because he played a multitude of roles. Played hooker against the Dogs. He played 13 against the Panthers, and he played in the halves against Manly and Para and so forth. Averaging 1 kick, that's not a surprise. I think most people saw that. They didn't really want him to aggravate his hamstrings. No forced dropouts, again, not a surprise. 83% tackle efficiency, which I don't think is reminiscent of the way that this bloke can tackle. He can fucking whack a bloke similar to Talon. He had 6 try causes in 9 games with 5 line break causes for those 9. He had 5 errors in 9 games and 1 penalty. Look, injuries just really hurt him, and it wasn't until the back end of the season that you began to see the player that he is. I feel for him. They try to get him into first grade and get him used to the speed and the contact because, obviously to put him into better stead for later seasons. But at the same time, I really think that he needed to just play reserve grade and get his minutes up and build his sharpness and his fitness. He got through 80 minutes, I think, twice this year. And quite frankly, that's just, that just speaks to the fact that he's a little bit underdone and he's not ready. I'm hoping that he can have an injury-free preseason. He had some issues through the post-Christmas block. I'm hoping that, those issues can be eradicated because, my God, there is just such a player there. And you saw it with that short ball to Seafarth.
Yeah, that was like so good. And the time, on the commentary was talking about him as silky, and then next minute, no.
Oh, he's just. I always rated him higher than Lachlan coming through, and rightly so. He won Harold Matt's Player of the Year at like 14 years old or something ridiculous. Like he's like nothing you've ever seen coming through as a junior. I think the pandemic slowed down his rise, and we are so lucky to have him. And I know that people are going to talk about, oh my God, where are we going to fit him? Where are we going to fit him? I don't see it that way at all. I want to see him control a team for 24 matches, if not more, in reserve grade and play 80 minutes each week. And when he comes up and he's called up to play first grade, it's in the halves and he plays 80 minutes and he rips it. I think that people are worried about us, keeping one of Galvin or Latu. I think there's a place for both of them. But right now, I think there's only a place for one of them in first grade. And I think Latu's the guy that just needs to go back and work on his craft. He's so young. He's got so much to learn and so much to do. And, we can be patient with him. It's okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'd be better for his development, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that he's going to be in the NRL side most weeks. I think they'll find a role for him. I know that there's the idea, like, is he the 14 or is Talon, right? Like, I know that there's that thought about it, and you might see him, one or the other interchanging depending on the tactical game plan each week. But with the probability of like us having an injury here or there, like it's not like he's going to miss out on opportunities. I would like to see him start the year at least for a month playing 80 at 6 in reserve grade, and like really don't even contemplate him in first grade for at least that long. But
I hope so.
But then if his form demands it and he's like actually just carving and dominating, then like at that point, again, it becomes a similar question to what I was talking about with Appy and Talon. If he's in our best 13, you got to find a spot for him. And he does have versatility, like because he's such a strong defender, as you alluded to, he does have versatility. One of our mates, Hawk, has an idea of potentially him playing that role as that ball playing 13. And I can see it. I can definitely see it. I mean, it's maybe he's a bit young to be thrust into the middle, but Benji's nothing if not willing to break his kids.
Yes.
Because I mean Benji got thrown in and broken, so he doesn't seem to have empathy for some reason. But I don't know. I just feel like whether it's at center, whether it's like in a pinch in the back row, whether it's playing on the bench, like when you see the way that we rotate our bench, we seem to only play 2 forwards most of the time anyway. So like it's plausible that we have him and Talon on the bench, and that way you've got coverage And you've got your relief dummy half for Appy, but you've also got Latu who can plug and play and really like relieve a whole range of positions on the field, because he can plug into the centers there, and a center could move to the wing or a winger to the foot. You know what I mean? Like it gives you those options. Right now, we probably don't have middle forwards that can play long enough minutes to reliably do that. But if we bring somebody like Kobe into the mix, or somebody like Terrell, both of them, then suddenly you might actually find that it's plausible for us to only play two forwards off the bench, particularly with like sizey outside backs that could potentially also move into the back row if like we have an issue in the middle of the game with some injuries. So I feel like he's too good for us to reliably say, let's just park him in New South Wales Cup. But I do want him to start there and prove himself from there, not thrust into first grade from round one and have this like mixy matchy 30 minutes here or 20 minutes there kind of development to his career. I don't think that that would do him any favors.
I agree. Look, the 13 stuff, I think that would still be another season away. I think that would be for 2026. I think that, God, the bloke doesn't even possess a motor to play in the halves. So how's he going to find it to play in the middle? So, you would need that over time. I just hope that the club play the development game. And, for the sake of winning games week to week, I think we need talent in that 14 jersey. And I think if you're going to play long game, then Latu, he plays reserve grade for the majority of it. I want to see him in first grade absolutely next year, no question. And irrespective, he'll be first drop anyway, irrespective of what happens with Sullivan and Dewey. The second that there's an injury, he'll be called up. But at the same time, I really just hope that they just send him back to reserve grade and get him to work on his game and go from there. Like, for God's sake, he's 20 next year. He's got like another 3 years of development before it's really showtime. So
let me ask you a question. So if Latu Fainu goes into New South Wales Cup and just dominates, let's say dominates for 8 weeks, not 4. Let's say he's just absolutely just stating his case. And the Tigers are, 4-4 or worse, like not absolutely killing it. Galvin's going good, but would you consider, at what point do you consider potentially moving Latu to 6 and actually biting the bullet on the whole concept of Galvin playing back row? Like, how good does Latu have to look before you make that call?
Well, the next step is for him to go to 14. And then you evaluate how he goes at that time. And then if he rips that up again, then yes, you're going to have to ask the question. Look, that situation is going to happen at some point.
I agree. I think it will
in these next few years. Do I think it's going to happen in 2025? I don't. Because I think that the impact that Luai is going to have on Galvin's game is going to be enough to keep the Wolf, or in this instance, Latu, from the door for Lachlan. But there will come a time when it absolutely happens. I just think at the moment it's not there. But what would I do? Again, I would bring him up on the bench. I would give him 15, 20, 25 minutes, see what it takes, see whether or not, it's reflected in first grade. And if it is, then it's time to have that conversation, and you stack that left edge. And
do you move Lachlan to back row in those minutes?
I would. Or to 13, I would keep him on the field. He's as fit as anything. You just rotate it. Let's say hypothetically that it's Jack Bird or Kobe Hetherington, and then Galvin probably moves into 13, or you grab a guy like Sam Weller, and Sam Weller goes to the middle, and Galvin sits on that edge, and then you've got Latu inside him, feeding him short pill. So
I don't think people that have watched Galvin exclusively in first grade like take this whole idea of him being a back row seriously.
But that was where I think that's where he had his best junior season.
I agree. That's what I was getting at. Like he's an absolute weapon for his age as a 6. Like people say he's the best rookie ever. So the idea of like him in the back row sounds stupid. And it'd probably be stupid if we didn't have somebody who had the similar level of pedigree as Latu Fainu. But there's so many. We do, but there's so many unknowns to this too. There's the Galvin contract unknown.
Yes.
Latu's here for longer, I think, by one season, I believe.
Yes.
And we've got Samuela here, Sione here, and then there's the offset of that is, can Latu actually stay physically healthy enough to even really put pressure on Lachlan? But if it does eventuate that way, and we do get to see Lachlan Galvin, the back rower in first grade, he's just going to melt everyone's face all over again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, as you say, I don't think people realise it. But in saying that, look, it was cool to see Latu play top grade. I hope that the club takes the development option and he rips up reserve grade and he earns his spot in first grade, as opposed to him just getting called up because of injuries or a lack of quality in the squad. Jarome Luai, 21 games this year, all at fullback, 10 tries and 7 try assists in those 21 games. It's averaging 15 runs per match. So to give you an idea, that's double what Heath Mason was managing in the same position. 138 metres per game for Jarome, so just under 10 metres per carry. He had 29 possessions per game, 9 line breaks and 17 line break assists across those 21. And a tackle efficiency percentage of 75, which I am sure is down on last year. 19 try causes and 8 line break causes in those 21 games. 23 errors, which I thought was a pretty telling stat, and 2 penalties. Testing year for Jarome. I think that there was a period through the middle of the year where he was playing injured. I think the fact that he obviously had that shoulder injury and he was retired to the stable early, I think that was good for him. I think he needed that. Just to get rid of those niggling injuries and start fresh. I saw more from him from an attacking standpoint this year to believe that I think that he is going to be so special. I know that people were disappointed by what he produced. I think this was the down year that he needed to work himself out in first grade. And I think that with Jarome coming, he's gonna become an exception. He's gonna go to another level. I'm not expecting Reece Walsh first year at the back of the Broncos or anything like that. But I have high expectations of him. And I've spoken about in the past how Fanua Bole and Alex Twal need to have big preseasons. Jarome is one as well. In saying that, I did see some improvement amongst his ball playing, amongst playing at top gear. I did see that there was some moments, under the high ball and defensively that I wasn't happy with. But at the same time, he's a second year fullback, and you're going to have those. But I saw enough from him to believe that he was laying the foundations for a good year next year. But I'm hopeful that with the addition of Sania Taruva, Mason being another year older, and Luke Laulii being ready to go from round one because he's of age, will push him all the way and bring out the best in him. What do you think?
My opinion of Jarome Buller changes all the time.
I know it does.
He's an enigmatic character. I think your point about seeing enough in the second year to be bullish about his third year is a good one. And so is the points you were raising about more class being around him being good for him, because I feel like a lot of the downside of his game was caused by him pretty much being the only real attacking threat, like outside back style attacking threat, and in some ways, our only attacking threat aside from Lachlan. So he's basically redlining and trying to do it all himself, trying to score all the points himself, and just trying to do too much, putting too much pressure on himself. And obviously that's not going to be the problem anymore. So now you'll get to see him play more of a role, where he'll be, the guy that's getting fed good ball in the right spots at the right times, as opposed to having to chase the game all the time. There were some improvements I saw in his willingness. Not enough. I still think that his kind of lackadaisical approach is still frustrating.
Yes.
I think that I really liked that he added that bomb catching on the chase thing. That was cool, and he did it multiple times.
He did.
It had a high success rate, and it's a high percentage play, because if he goes up and he knocks it on, it's the exact same outcome anyway, right? So like it's a good play to continuously do. And he's like obviously, his vertical leap is basketball level, so that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
I think geez, I wonder what he'd look like as a winger. Like imagine like, him like being targeted with crossfield kicks and stuff like that. He'd be an absolute nightmare to defend. But and his speed and his ability to swerve and stuff like that. But and I actually feel like, if, Heath Mason progresses the way that he does, maybe Jarome Luai will end up on the wing. But all the centers. But yeah, I expect he'll have a much, much bigger 2025. I expect he'll have a huge 2025. I think you might see like a bit of the similar curve to like Will Kennedy. Like when the Sharks ended up, adding Nico and adding and they got those young halves come in and they started to actually dominate. And Will Kennedy was able to really just like play a very like solid role in that team. And suddenly that solid role flourished and turned him into a slightly different type of player to the one that he was before, similar to Dylan Edwards as well. I think Buller does have that potential. Is he in Queensland? Like, does
He's pledged allegiance to New South Wales,
has
but
he?
yeah,
Okay.
he has. But I don't know whether or not he'll be able to. It might be similar to Mulatalo. I'm not too sure. Look,
Because he's played internationals, but he's not playing internationals this off season, is he?
no. He's off. He's not playing for the Fijians. Our Fijian flyer,
I
Sanam,
think
is playing fullback for them at the moment.
I
Look,
think
I thought last year the red football was in his future, but there's just so many good fullbacks. The Latrells, Keanu Kinney's, Clint Gutherson's, Reese Walsh's,
well, I wasn't
and
the
Hammers
reason
and
I
whatnot.
asked the reason I asked you if you as a Queenslander is because I kind of feel like if he pledged allegiance to Queensland, his pathway to rep football is much narrower. And it's not just because there's less talent up there. As a fullback, there's probably more. But uh
Yeah.
but like
I,
Billy Slater loves him, loves
yeah, he
love.
does.
And like, I could easily see Buller being the sort of fullback in regular team club footy land that plays outside backs in a rep team kind of player.
Yeah,
Um,
he's similar to Hammer in that sense.
yeah.
I think. I don't think he's as fast, and I don't think he's as good a player as Hammer right now. But I think probably starting from a similar base. So yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think we've had this conversation a few times. That if you were a Queenslander, yeah, chances are he'd be in the frame. So who knows? Look, again, the only thing on Buller's tip sheet this year is to just play at 100 mile an hour. I think I saw enough in his ball playing and his running game and everything like that. And I know that he's got the cleanup work in him, providing that he's injury free to be the fullback that we need him to be.
Yeah, how good was his defense last season? Like last that was
Yeah.
that's what was really impressive about him was he was like diffusing tries as many as he was scoring.
Yeah,
And that
that's right. Which again makes me think that he was playing injured because you don't lose that.
yeah.
You don't lose that. So
Yeah, because
look,
that was all anticipation. That's all just mental, like his ability to process what's happening in front of him. I think Jarome Buller, I can't really exactly articulate why I feel this way, but I feel like he's the sort of player that when the big moments come in big games, that's when you'll see him at his best.
I agree. I think he's a finals football player. He's
Yeah.
similar to Dylan Edwards in that sense, and I think you'll see that come alive in him. I just hope that it comes sooner rather than later. But yeah, look again. I saw. Look, it was an up and down year, but there was enough in his stats and what I saw in regards to the eye test with the ball in hand to make me think that he will get there. And with Jarome Luai, I think that he will have no choice but to play 100 mile an hour. But furthermore, he's got a player that's going to play straight and bite into the line and creating the space that he deserves because he has the speed to get around his opposite, and his ball playing skill is only going to improve. So I'm hopeful, and we're not making any big predictions for 2025 in this one, but I'm hopeful that he lifts off the canvas like I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think Luai's game suits Buller's game because
Yeah,
as you point out, like the way Luai likes to cause defensive Like, what do we say? Like the way he cuts back in, it causes defenders to like get put under pressure and like create like gaps in the line and stuff like that. And Bull is the sort of dude who will pick up on what Luai's doing and like follow through and like capitalize on those opportunities. I think he'll score a lot of tries.
I hope so, man. I really, really hope so. Captain Courageous Api Koroya Sal. 22 games this year, 5 tries and 10 try assists, averaging 4 runs a game for 46 meters. So picked his moments quite well. 6 line breaks, 11 line breaks assists in those 22 games. He was averaging about a kick, 1 kick per game for 59 meters. So got quite the boot on him, does Apasai. 2 forced dropouts in those 22 games. But these stats, I think, tell the story. Tackle efficiency percentage of 82% for a player playing in the middle. He had 13 try causes and 18 line break causes. He had 20 errors in 22 games and 15 penalties. I think that this was the year where you started to see the frustration creep in and the feeling that he had to do it all himself. And furthermore, the fact that he was playing 80 minutes, he was picking up more injuries, he was more tired, he was missing more tackles, and he was just making dumb decisions. We need a save uppy from himself. And thankfully, with the signings of Jarome Luai and Sania Taruva and Royce Hunt and so forth, that he's going to have proven first grade quality around him.
Like a kid in a candy store, you won't know who to pass to.
That's right. But the thing is with Up, again, he just, you heard it every week and you could see it in the way that he was playing and the frustration that he had, that he was putting his body through torture to get on the field every week, let alone play 80 minutes. And that's why I think Talon needs to have a bigger role next year, because we need to save Uppy from himself and we need him for the long game. I think that 2026 is our title tilt. And we need him there in his best shape. I'm so thankful that we are building a team around him. And I hope that, and I know that he won't be doing it all himself, but look, at the beginning of the year, he was just spectacular. He was amazing. That Cronulla game, what he produced was, I was calling him better than Farah. Like, he was amazing.
He's definitely in the question with, like, he might be better than Farah.
He's top 2. If he gets us, to the top 8 again, then he's definitely in that conversation. Sorry, when he gets us to the top 8 again, he's in that conversation.
That will be 2020.
I just hope that a lot of these issues towards the back end of the year were just niggling injuries that he just needs a preseason to get right, and they're not issues with his age, and him declining. But I'm fairly confident that it was out of frustration and niggles and down to his conditioning. So, with that in mind, I still am in awe of his talents and what he can do on a football field, and again, the torture he puts himself through to put himself on the field. I'm just so grateful that we finally have the players around him that he deserves as we move forward, and he continues his tenure at West Tigers.
I think you reviewed him well enough. Like, I'd rather just take a minute to sort of talk about what I think he's going to look like in 2025. I think I'm going to make a hot take. I'm going to make a bold prediction here.
Go.
I think he might win the Daily M. I'm serious.
I was anticipating, like, I don't know.
I'm serious. Let me explain why, right? Okay, so look at how hard he is for defenders to deal with when he's passing to Aiden Caesar, when he's passing to Jaden Sullivan. He still deceives people and he's still impossible to deal with. Now he's going to be passing to Jarome Luai and Lachlan Galvin and Jareem Buller, and he's got pigs that he can target, like tired defenders around the ruck running 100 miles an hour, big bodies. I just feel like he's going to have the game open up a lot more than he's had previously at the Tigers. And I don't see us shifting our game plan away from one that is centered around him. So I feel like, while we're all talking about Jarome Luai coming in and being the man and he's going to dominate, Jarome Luai's best traits are, throw him the ball and he does some amazing shit. Like he's not the guy who's going to game manage. And I think he can. And he's probably going to play that role to some extent. But I feel
Yeah.
like Uppy will continue to play that role more than Luai will. And they have that combination. I think that Arpi is going to have an incredible season as long as he stays on the paddock and stays fit. I feel like this season, everything you said about him being frustrated is so true. And I think a lot of it
Yeah.
came down to he was almost just reloading himself for 2025. Like I think what you'll see is a guy who is going to look back on 2024 and go, I was not at my best. I could have been better. I'm now surrounded by incredible talent. He's going to lead us into the off season. He's going to have a huge off season, and he is going to absolutely. He lost his New South Wales jersey too. Like, there's so much reason for him to really put everything on the line in 2025. I just feel like he's going to explode and be huge in 2025.
I hope so. We'll leave that at that. The last man on this list, we've left in there on purpose, is one Lachlan Galvin. Before we go into any of this, this is a voice recording that one Joe McCord sent me and my friends in the Discord after the Australian Schoolboys Championships in September of last year.
So I thought I would, I'm just driving back, so I'll just do a little bit of voice recording to describe what I saw. So, goddamn, Lachlan Galvin. Like, where do I start? Okay. He's such a hard player to summarize why he's so good, because all you want to say is he's just better than everyone. Like, that's just, when you finish watching him dismantle teams, you just go, well, he's just better than everyone. So whenever they get a chance, they throw it to him and just know he's going to do stuff. And that's a rep team full of like the best players from all the other like schools and clubs. They just go, time to give it to Lockie. And the thing is that in this game, when they gave it to him, he was just like, I'm either going to make a line break or Luke's going to make a line break. That's all he was doing the whole time. It was like he would run an angle. He would summarize the like defense so well. If he threw it to Luke, Luke made a line break. If he didn't throw it to Luke, he would either make a line break or he would like break the first tackle and bounce back inside and spin it the other way. And he did that every time he touched the ball. I think he got tackled once. Yeah, I think he actually, I saw him play the ball once in the whole game. He put in a beautiful kick for Luke that Luke dropped on their first like combination. But then after that, it was just perfect the whole game, their combination. The kick he put in was like called by Luke. I was sitting real close to it. Luke was Lockie. And like Lockie literally just put this beautiful crossfield kick just out of the fingertips of the winger, just over his head when he was reaching up to try to stop it. And it fell into the chest of Luke. And Luke couldn't put it down. It's like the winger obscured his vision until the very last minute. But then, yeah, from there. So what's his primary skill? His primary skill, I would say, is his vision, because when you watch him off the ball, all he's doing the whole time is looking at the defense. He's not the sort of player that like worries about putting his players into position. He just worries about figuring out what the defense are doing. Like he'll sit there off the ruck for the first couple of tackles. Even like in defense, it seems like he's like trying to figure out which of the opposition players are tired. Like he will be watching them when they're in attack and seeing who's taken a break. Like he's that cerebral in the way he's like assessing what's going on around him. He is a fucking absolute out and out first grader fucking superstar. Like he is that good. He should be playing first grade next year as a 6. I know that they have issues with him in his size, but like while he's still not too big, he should be playing 6 in the NRL. Like he's that good. He is that good. But yeah, like in terms of his like actual abilities, so you got the kicking game, the vision, the passing selection is unbelievable. Like, last man to pass, like, his line break assists numbers are going to be astonishing as he goes through the grades, and it'll convert. It'll translate as a back rower, that ability to put centers and wingers away. So you can see why they kind of want him to play back row. I reckon his issue is not going to be that he's going to be too big for center. It's going to be that they want him to play back row, but he's going to not be big enough for back row. So I'd be almost inclined to just persevere with him at 6 for as long as humanly possible. Like, if they've persevered with Dewey as a big 6, they should persevere with Galvin. He's way better than Dewey. He's way, way, way better than Dewey. He is. Like, Dewey's got a much bigger kicking game, but aside from that, Galvin's faster. He's a better tackle breaker. He's a better passer. So he can pass before the line, and his selection is, like, astonishing. His offload is immense. Like, he'll be falling in a tackle, and he can, like, offload out the back. He can offload, flick pass offload. He's so good, man. He's the best player. Best junior we have, I reckon. I reckon he's better than TDS. I genuinely do. Like, I've seen them play together a few times, and I've come out of it thinking Galvin was better than Talon. Like, obviously, Talon's an absolute freak. That's nothing, not to take away anything away from Talon, but I think Lockie is better. I really do. I reckon, I'm not going to go to the rest of the carnival, but I reckon Lockie Galvin is going to win player of the carnival. I would be surprised if he doesn't.
There you have it. We always knew. We always knew. I'll let you speak. I'll just give the stats. 21 games, 4 tries, 17 try assists. So 21 try involvements in 21 games, averaging 9 runs a game, 52 possessions per game in those games, 7 line breaks and 16 line break assists, averaging 6 kicks per game. He had 9 forced dropouts in 21 matches, a tackle efficiency percentage for a rookie of 87%, 16 try causes, 14 line break causes. He had 20 errors in 21 games, but I put that down to trying, and 6 penalties. Joe McCord, take it away.
So early on, when I started tracking him as a junior, I gave him a nickname, and that nickname was Lachlan Galvin. And the reason for it's, like, obviously they're a different type of player, but they have the same intangible, dominant freak vision, like, influence on a game. Like, he is like the prospect of the generation. Like, I watched him, as you would have heard in that, play with the best kids of his age in the country, multiple games. And it wasn't just his on-field performances that impressed me. It was watching him after games and when other teams were playing and he was wandering around just with the boys. It was like watching a high school quarterback walking through the halls of a American high school. Like, he's standing in the middle and he's flanked by Luke Lolaliki on one side, and he's got some other blokes on the other, and he's just wandering around like he is the king of the fucking world. He's that guy. Like, he is that guy. And that's the reason that he is so good. Like, he's got all the skills and stuff like that, but he has that. Yeah, how do I say it without sounding
Swagger. Clutch.
I was going to say something slightly more derogatory. He has that kind of Tom Brady-esque sociopathic sense of self-belief. Like,
yeah, that's it. He fucks.
He just, there is, like, he knows who he is. Like, and for somebody who, like, to walk into NRL, like, first game of the season and be the same guy that dominated that schoolboys carnival, the same guy that dominated Harold Matthews from the minute that he arrives in that NRL, is unprecedented. It's actually flat out unprecedented. None of them did it. None of the greats did it. They all say it. JT and Joey talked about it. Brad Fittler talked about it. None of them walked into first grade and started doing the things that Lachlan Galvin did. And he's only a kid. He only just turned 19.
Yeah, man.
What this kid is going to turn into is, really up to luck in a lot of ways. As long as he stays fit, as long as he doesn't have any kind of silly injuries and he manages to have like a Cam Smith rails run when it comes to his physical health, which to me, is all about prep and it's all about fitness and it's all about training and it's all about mindset. And he seems to have that. He doesn't seem to actually suffer from injuries, even though he's a pretty fragile body. If he can stay healthy, he will end up in some serious rarefied areas, in some serious conversations, in terms of not only like, his like stats as a footy player, but like more so, the things like he'll be up there in talks for like most games played because of how early on he started his career. Like he has the potential to like play more first grade games than Cam Smith if he actually like stays on the field and stays healthy because he started at a younger age. Like the end of Lachlan Galvin's career, Phil Gould said that he believes that by the end of Lachlan Galvin's career, he will have made more money out of rugby league than any other player to ever play the game. And I totally agree. I totally believe that will be the case. Like his first contract that he's going to sign, whether it's with us or whether he walks, he will be paid $1.2 million as in his first contract. So he'll be being paid $1.2 million a season from the age of 21. But let's talk about him as a player. So, we've discussed him ad nauseum on this podcast, but the thing that makes him such a unique player is actually the simple stuff. He understands the simple art of putting pressure on defense. That's what attacking rugby league is all about. It's about making the other guy worried about what you're going to do. And because he can then do four things, kick, pass one direction, pass the other, or run, and he's very hard to take down one-on-one. He has an amazing fend. Because he can do four things, if he's got one guy in front of him that's worried about what he's going to do, he's a 75% chance of ruining that guy's life just mathematically. But he also seems to have this incredible ability to just know exactly what the correct thing to do is, whether that's pass one out, whether that's throw an incredible cutout pass to the left winger, whether that's to actually run, or whether it's to put in, like, nobody talks about how good his short kicking game is. Like he's like the grubbers into the in goal don't go over the dead ball line like Luke Brooks's grubbers do. the like that weird crossfield kick where he kicked the belly of the ball and it just went straight over the dude's head and bounces. That was an accident he admitted to and he shouldn't have. But that's the other fucking intangible quality that all of these incredible players have is that they're kissed on the dick. He is that guy. He's that good. He has that much self-belief. He has that much skill and he has the footy gods on his side. He's incredible.
And transmission. Look, again, he exceeded all expectations. The greatest rookie season you've ever seen. And you have guys like Andrew Johns and Jonathan Thurston looking up to him. Like, holy shit, what did they birth in Campbelltown 20 years ago? It's insane.
To do it all, like, at his age is one thing, but he's a one of one physically. He's 6'3".
He is.
So, like, when he's like complete, like when he finishes growing up, he's going to be a physically dominant player. He's going to reinvent the position. There was a time in the NFL where the NFL started to realize the benefits of having giant quarterbacks, 6'4", 6'5" quarterbacks. All the quarterbacks back in the day used to be Joe Montana, 5'10". And they realized, no, you need a big body there because they need to be able to handle collisions. They need to be able to run. They need to be able to just be physically dominant presences on the field. And I feel like Lachlan Galvin might have a similar impact on how we perceive halves moving forward in our game.
I think you said it there, mate. I don't think that we can end this party any better. Do you?
Oh, I don't know, probably not. Maybe another shout out to Pinch Payments.
I hear that. Shout out Pinch. Shout out Lachlan for taking us on quite the ride, and we can't wait to see what you do next year with Jarome Luai inside you.
And please sign.
Yes, that too. With that in mind, that's us, and we'll be back next week. We'll speak to you soon, and thanks for tuning in.
Follow us on socials.
Yes, and subscribe. Ciao.
We were once all strangers, became good friends all the time, seeking retribution. We've got winning on our mind, we've got to cross the line.